Most meteors burn up before they can explode. That fact has not escaped the notice of an equally qualified scientist, Charles Cowell of Caltech, who supports the comet theory.
Comets are basically dirty snowballs. That is, they're composed mostly of water ice with some dust mixed in. They're very fragile things. They're not solid rocks. This helps explain why the Tunguska event did not leave a large crater on the ground. Even though it was a very massive, violent event, there were no large craters found. This is because the comet exploded before it hit the ground. The blast effect knocked down trees and people many miles from the center of the explosion. But it did not leave much evidence on the ground. There were no large chunks of meteorites left. This can only be explained by the fact that the comet disappeared before it hit the ground, whereas a meteorite would have left a large crater and fragments scattered all over the place. I think the comet theory is the best one, simply because it explains all of the facts with the minimum number of assumptions.
Some scientists are even willing to reach further for possible explanations. Dr. Isaac Asimov is a physicist, mathematician, and author.
Until, say 20 years ago, the universe we knew was very staid and stable, and nothing particularly exciting happened. But since then, with the discovery of quasars in 1963, we have come to believe and to have evidence for the fact that this is a violent universe we live in, and that there are all kinds of strange objects we didn't dream of before. For instance, there are black holes. The ordinary black hole is a monstrous thing with a mass equal anywhere from 3 times that of the sun to billions of times the mass of the sun. There are at least theories that there are such things as mini black holes, formed at the very moment of creation in the Big Bang 15 billion years ago. The ravening gases that emerged from the original Big Bang may have created sufficient compressions here and there to squeeze small bits of matter into black holes. Supposing one of these mini black holes that perhaps didn't have any more mass than an asteroid came down and struck the Earth. It would absorb atmospheric molecules as it dashed through the air, heating it up and creating a terrific explosion. Now, there is no evidence that this is what happened. In fact, to tell you the truth, there is no hard and fast evidence that many black holes exist at all.
The explanation, however, with which Dr. Asimov feels most comfortable is the comet theory proposed by Charles Cowell. Other explanations have been offered, particularly by Soviet scientists who have had more opportunity to study the physical evidence. Soviet science writer Alexander Kazantsev proposed in the early 1950s that the Tunguska blast was nuclear in origin. But who or what could have triggered such a blast remained a mystery. Despite the diverging opinions, scientists have one area of agreement: that on June 30th, 1908, some outer space object collided with the Earth. But in order to seek a logical explanation of what happened in the Tunguska, we must go back and analyze the blast itself.
There was a gigantic fireball, a huge pillar of fire that blossomed up into the air for some 20 miles and was visible for several hundred miles away. It was an instantaneous thermal flash as a result of this fireball that scorched the forest for, again, for hundreds of miles. There were shock waves that rushed through the forest, knocking trees down.
Russian writer Kazantsev, Atkins, and others have theorized that such a blast was triggered by a nuclear device almost 40 years before the first man-made explosion. Nowhere in Earth's history is there evidence of a spontaneous atomic blast. The heavens, however, hold a partial answer. Using the sun as a model, we know that all stars have, for billions of years, created power through nuclear fusion. Surrounding these stars exist planetary systems much like our own, and it is quite likely also that if there is other intelligent life in the galaxy, they have harnessed such a power.